For Matt, I was just wondering, what did y'all see in Quinn Priester early in the season that made y'all think he'd be a fit in this rotation? How have y'all been able to kind of unlock that in him?
Yeah, he's certainly a talented player. Had identified him years ago, frankly through the draft process. I mean, he was a high pedigree draft pick. I'd followed him for years. Obviously, when guys come up to the big leagues, especially as pitchers, they don't always have success immediately, but we thought there were some really good ingredients there. And so, again, teaming up with our guys, we felt like, especially in the moment at that time, we were obviously very thin with pitching. Felt like he was somebody that was in AAA for the Red Sox, and we thought could help us. So, again, huge credit to Quinn for what he's been able to become, and a credit to our staff for tapping into him. He's done a great job.
Go to Adam in the second row in the middle.
Mark, I'm wondering if you could tell us your thoughts when the Cubs got the final out yesterday and this matchup materialized. Interesting on many different levels. And also I'm wondering...
I should have anticipated that question.
I'm wondering if you have anything to say to Brewers fans who may have some offers on their tickets that are pretty lucrative. Do you want to put out... Is the club going to put out any message to try to keep this a home field advantage?
So if we'll just take the questions in order. I actually was watching the game with Bud Selig yesterday, last several innings, and you have a mixed emotion, right? Because we're so used to hoping that the Cubs don't win, obviously, and likewise, I'm sure they feel that way about us. Yet, this is a great matchup for our fans, all the fans of baseball. These playoffs in the National League, you have the 4 teams with the most wins in it. That's special. And here you have 2 teams who know each other really well, and so it should be great baseball. And we look forward to the challenge and the opportunity, and I'm sure they do too. Look, you have an expectancy, and you also have anxiety because, and on both sides. That should make a very good series. Our fans have been terrific supporters for the second question, the team all season. I think we were 11th or 12th in attendance. By the way, on viewership, I think we were second. We had one more win than the Phillies, and they had a slightly higher media point than we did. We had the second most watched team in baseball this year behind the Phillies. And so we expect our fans will bring the energy they always do, and be very supportive. And Cubs fans want to come see their team. I'm sure they'll figure out how to do that, and I'm sure our fans will figure out how to go to Wrigley Field.
Stay here in the second row.
Mark, I was actually going to ask you about attendance and TV ratings. I had talked to Rick yesterday. Just, again, we hear all about the market size in Milwaukee. You guys finished 12th in total, 12th in average attendance with this market, and ratings are up. Just from a business standpoint, the consistent success on the field and off the field, just how proud are you of both of those things?
Well, extremely proud of, it's a total team and community effort, organization effort and team to get that type of attendance. When I was looking at, it's hard to believe, 21 seasons ago, purchasing the team, I looked at the tradition of baseball in Milwaukee, actually even predating the Braves to the American Association team. And so this community has always loved baseball. So it doesn't surprise me that when you have a good product on the field that they'll support to a very high level. And, we've had a three-peat here. I think Pat Riley, who I've now had a pleasure of getting to know a little bit, has the trademark on that. So, and more important, I think we've had 5 division titles since 2018, and that, model of consistency, I think Matt and his whole baseball ops staff and Murph and the coaching staff, and of course the players, they all get the credit for that.
Go all the way up to the top row on the right.
Matt, when did you have an indication with this team that it had a special quality to it and just was able to win a division and get in the playoffs and maybe make something special happen?
Yeah, good question. I don't know if there was like a specific date. I think back to where we were in New York and where we weren't at the moment, and we were going through a lot of things with injuries and obviously the torpedo bats that week, and we came home and we weren't great there either. Pretty dark spot at the moment, but I'll tell you what, I didn't feel doubt from the group. I think that was the thing that got us through that, and that, again, that's a credit to the people in that room. That compete every single day, and I really felt like we had a really special group early on when we were able to weather that early part of the season, and for us to come out the other side of that and then start really clicking kind of in the second half. Along the way, there are certainly some special moments along the way that were great, but it really has been a strong group really since we left Arizona, and so again, credit to that group and to Murph and all the coaches as well.
There was William Contreras wrote a piece in I think they call it the Players Tribune, and he credited, I've got my Spanish right, Unidad. That clubhouse is as unified as any clubhouse we've had. 2008 was similar, very unified clubhouse, and I think that has a lot to do with the results you see.
Stay up top.
At the trade deadline, fans were clamoring for a blockbuster deal. There wasn't one. You went and did your best Gene Hackman and said, my team is on the floor. You got Danny Jansen, but you pretty much stood pat, and now you come into the playoffs with the best record in baseball. Do you feel personally vindicated that you had a sense that this was the team that could play in October and you weren't going to make any major moves?
Yeah, look, I think every move is sort of in isolation to some degree, but it's about the whole unit, honestly. And I think certainly we were tapped into all the different opportunities that were out there. And we felt like we had the right people in the mix, and I think sometimes when you want to subtract a piece or add a piece, that can change the dynamic in the clubhouse, certainly. And that was a big factor for us. And so a lot of it had to do with who we had at the moment. And the other part is kind of what you're giving up for the future. And I think that's been a big part of this is continue to support the pipeline that we have currently, which we are very excited about, but that's not why we're here today. We're here today because of the group in that room, and really that was just a vote of confidence for the guys in that room because, again, they've done just an incredible job to get us to this point.
Stay up top on the left side.
Matt, you mentioned special moments throughout the year. What are some of those special moments that you're going to look back on?
Man, there's some huge comebacks. Mark, we could spend a long time talking about them, honestly, and not all of them are on the field, honestly. I think about the day we celebrated Bob Uecker, to be honest, was a special day for all of us. I want to continue celebrating his life as long as I'm here. He meant a lot to a lot of people, and so I feel like that was certainly a highlight for me to see Judy and obviously all the history of the team and the Brewers and what Mark has been able to build here. And that family type of culture, that's what I think makes this place really special, and days like that certainly resonate for me.
One of the things I think is interesting, and who knows, right, when things flip, but Jackson Churio made a great catch in center field, and we started winning. I think it was against the Twins. We started winning after that, and it's interesting, if that was, the inflection point, that it was a defensive play. Matt and his group have really focused on run prevention and defense, and I think that's, one of the many reasons we're here is defense, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go to Kurt, third row in the middle.
For Mark, the fans have made their opinions on Craig pretty clear the last couple of years. I'm sure we'll hear it this weekend. And I'm sure you knew this question was coming for you as well at some point. But when he first announced that he was going to the Cubs, you had some pretty clear statements on how you felt at the time. I'm just curious, I don't think we've asked since, if you still feel burned a little bit by Craig going to the Rivals.
I don't think I said I felt burned. I think I said that, look, we lost the manager that still has the most wins in our history and may forever. He did an unbelievable job here for 9 seasons. I talked about losing the community, and I think this community is really special in so many ways. And, so I think that was more the comment than, everybody has to do what they have to do for themselves and their family.
Mark, left side. Second.
Mark, anybody that watched the Brewers this year, watch you keep Matt bringing up new players each week and perform, and they're saying, where do they get these guys? I mean, did you make a focused effort over the years in terms of building your scouting department, either the size or the scope or those kinds of things?
I think Matt should answer what from an ownership level, we just try to find really gifted, talented executives. And of course, they then find talented players and talented field staff. So I think Matt should really answer that because he built an incredible baseball ops organization here.
We could talk about scouting for a long time if you want, because I love it. Yeah, we've been fortunate to have incredible support from Mark to build that group. And scouting comes in a lot of different forms these days. There's video and there's analytics and there's the human element and getting to know all the kids. And like I said, we could spend a lot of time talking about it, but it really does take a big group of people coming together on those evaluations. And then once you get those players, you have to have the right player development, coaches, all the support behind that. And again, Mark has been incredible supporting us both on the scouting side and on the player development side. So it really takes a team effort to get those guys once they're here and playing on TV.
Go to Jesse on the right side aisle.
Asked and answered.
All right, so we'll go to Kyle.
Matt, I just kind of wanted to ask you, just how have you seen, Murph grow into the job since he's taken over, and just how has he kind of imparted, his sensibility and personality onto, this group?
I mean, what you see is what you get from Murph, and so it's every day is what he brings. He brings an intensity. He brings a relentless approach. He cares so much about the people in the room and winning that it's infectious. It really is. I think it's been tremendous because it's become part of our fabric, and even when we go through tough parts of our season, like we did at the start, Murph was there continuing to challenge the group, and I think that means a lot. There are a lot of teams I think that could have potentially gone the other direction, and again, a huge credit to Murph for keeping us on the right path.
Back to the left side up top.
Mark, I have a business-related question for you. Wondering if you could just speak to the financial impact of the postseason on the Brewers franchise, specifically, what is the fiscal impact on the Brewers for each playoff home game?
I think the financial impact, the deeper you get in the postseason, the better you do. There's a real financial reward for getting to the World Series, just the way the math works with not only ticketing but media. And, from our standpoint, we're 100% focused on winning just for the sake of winning. Something that, everybody's completely dedicated to. I'm really proud that in 21 seasons, we have 9 playoff appearances. We got to get to the World Series, and that's everybody's focus. But for winning, for the banner, for the ring, not for the financial.
Go to the second row on the right side.
Matt, the roster that you guys finished the regular season with was quite a bit different than the one that you guys took to New York. There was a little bit of turnover throughout the year. How much do you think just having the depth and the adaptability to kind of reshuffle the deck chairs a little bit throughout the season, how much do you think that helps a team find its identity and have the success that you guys have ended up having this year?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I think you're right. I mean, when you go through a season, there's obviously going to be a lot of turnover, and what you thought about a certain player at the start of the year can certainly evolve, and we're not always right on those guys, and I love being proven wrong in a lot of cases, and but you have to find out, and so I think the big thing is just building up a number of players that have ingredients that you like, and then hopefully that can come together with the coaching that we have and try to get the most out of those players. But you're right. Yeah, it's a lot of it's trial and error over the course of a long season, and we have to stay nimble constantly throughout the season with our roster to find out.
Go back to Kyle up on the right side.
Matt, you mentioned you like talking about, scouting and player evaluation. I just kind of wanted to ask you, just kind of when you identify somebody like Andrew Vaughn, who may have, struggled at his previous spot, but has shown glimpses and flashes of, improved play, just kind of what is it about your front office group that's able to identify those types of players and get the most out of them, or see them have their best ball with you guys?
Yeah, I don't know if it's any one thing. I think it's a combination of the work that the guys are putting in, the combination of different perspectives that we have involved. And then it's the environment. You know, you have to put the people in the right environment, and we have incredible support from Mark to create that environment. And then it's on us to try to mix and match the profiles that work best. And yeah, I think there's always some silver lining with all these players, especially when they've struggled, and that's an opportunity I look at to try to bring in somebody like Andrew Vaughn, and that's again a huge credit to him for what he's been able to do since we got him.
Let's come to Adam in the second row.
Matt, Murph shared with us that Woody will not pitch in the first round, and then you'll see from there. Obviously, there was a lot of thought that went into what the club would announce here. Can you describe some of those conversations and what your level of optimism is that this is possible, or is this door open just a tiny little crack, or is it open pretty wide?
Yeah, I think we'll see. I mean, obviously, when you talk about somebody who means as much to our franchise as Brandon Woodruff, you want to see that all the way through, right? And so it's certainly there's an opportunity for him to potentially come back. We just don't know what that is. It's day to day. It's it's not his shoulder, which is a really good thing. There's nothing structural wrong with his shoulder. It's a lat injury, and so we feel like we treat those oftentimes like a hamstring, and that can be potentially a couple days, maybe even a couple weeks. We just don't know. And so what we do know is that Woody's a tremendous competitor, and he wants to be a big part of this, and he's going to continue to work to be a part of this. And even if he's not doing it on the field, I mean, he's going to do it in the clubhouse for sure.
Doug, down in the front.
Oh, thanks. So I'm curious about sort of like the culture around the organization. Like, when I was playing, I always felt like each team had a style or a preference. So, for example, I always thought the Brewers, everybody was like 5'9", 5'10", had a goatee and could play first base. It was like a style, right? So I wonder, like, how you describe what is like sort of a Brewers player in that context, and then how you avoid being too myopic about it, because that sort of fits into the culture.
By the way, you should plug that into your model, 5'9", 5'10", goatee.
Yeah, we could plug that in. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you want to.
No, I think, look, we, Matt and the group have a variety of things they look at, and talked about how, ownership can support the group. We try to never say no, and try to give them the best working environment so that they can assess that. I don't know if you look for a pure, there are different qualities you look in for sure for players, but I don't know that it's only one type.
No, definitely. I think the important part is staying nimble to that. I remember a couple years ago we had the big boy infield. Remember, it was like Moustakas and Shaw and Aguilar and Scope and Kratz. It's like the biggest infield ever. And now we have the opposite of that, right? But I think there's some ingredients with those guys that are probably similar, maybe in terms of makeup, if that's what you're suggesting, and makeup matters. That's important to us, and kind of who they are, regardless of the size of the guy. Whether it was a couple years ago or now, we've had success with both. And again, that's I think a big credit to our scouting staff and the people that are out there trying to get information on the players that we acquire.
Take two more. We'll do Andy on the left, and then we'll finish up with Kurt in the middle.
Mark, you mentioned just how much it would mean to the organization to go to the World Series. And I'm just curious from your perspective how you weigh, I guess, the success you guys have had in the regular season during this stretch where you built yourself into a perennial contender against just the disappointment you've experienced in October.
Yeah, that's a key question. When I bought the club 21 seasons ago, I laid out 4 mandates or things that we looked to build on, and one was to always be sustainably competitive. That was the first one. So if you're not competitive, you can't get there. We're all very mindful that the club's only been in one World Series in 1982, and so those sort of go hand in hand. When I bought the team, we had 12 losing seasons in a row, so it was hard to say, the goal is to get to a World Series. Well, you lost. In fact, that year, when I first actually was sitting over there was a guy from ESPN in the front who said to me, well, when you have lost another 12 years in a row and haven't been to a playoff game in over 20 years, you won't be so cheery. We sort of turned that around. But that said, of course, that's the goal for the organization, for the community. Nothing would be more special. But there's right now in our league, there's 3 other teams that have done everything to get there, and 4 in the American League, and watching the playoff games, these are all really good teams. I know you want to get to a World Series.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a JV ring. I don't have a varsity ring, so I would like to get a big one.
We'll finish up with Kurt.
Matt, and just in the conversations you guys have had this week and in weeks past about the roster for this series, and with Miz specifically, what light could you shed before the roster is announced on the roles that you guys have talked about, how those conversations have gone, roster him, not roster him, all those things?
Yeah, in terms of the roster, yeah, still, we put in a lot of hours talking about it, and I think in some cases we can justify a lot of different permutations of that roster. And I think with Miz in particular, look, I think what we're looking at is game one Freddie, and then beyond that, it's just pretty much all hands on deck, and I think Miz will certainly be part of that. But it obviously he's going to have to go out there and perform just like everybody else, and I think his role is still to be determined. I think a lot of that has to do with, the matchup and the situation and all those things involved. But, that's been a great part of our team is that we just have so many guys that are just willing to say, hey, just give me the ball whenever it takes and I'm going to get the job done, and I think he's certainly going to get that opportunity.
All right, Mark, Matt, thank you for the time.
Yeah.